Good morning, everyone. It's December 8th, and if I look different or sound different, it's because I got an iPhone 14 Pro and I haven't gotten my mic's adapter to hook into it, and obviously their camera is different. I actually think it looks better, so I'm sorry if it's been a bit of a change. Side note, I actually got one the same day I walked into an Apple store. I know that the supply chain on these has been disrupted due to the issues with COVID, the zero COVID policy, which is a whole nother video because those are changing, as well as the riots at Foxconn, which is the manufacturer of iPhones. However, I was able to walk into an Apple store and get one the same day, no issues. Anyways, that's not what this video is about. I'm going to talk about two things. First and foremost, if you remember yesterday, I talked about Peru backsliding into an autocracy or authoritarianism. Well, good on them. They actually fought back, and Pedro Castillo, the president who was trying to dissolve the Congress and dissolve the Constitution of the country, was impeached. 101 members of the 130 member Congress impeached him, and he was arrested. Incidentally, the vice president, which is Dina Boluarte, became Peru's first female president. And what really drove this is Pedro Castillo could not get the military on board. Most coups require some form of force or threat of force with the military backing. Well, the Peruvian armed forces rejected Castillo's attempt to sideline all of the lawmakers, calling it an infringement on the Constitution. So good for them. Another win for the good guys on trying to counter authoritarianism. Now, obviously, the other big story is Brittney Griner. She is being freed from a Russian prison in a prisoner swap where the Russians will get back Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout. I'm a bit disappointed that Marine Paul Whelan wasn't freed. He's been in prison in Russia for about 4 years. A lot of his charges are trumped up as well, which is a thing that Russia loves to do. And that's the biggest argument I have for freeing Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan is, let's not pretend that Russia has a free, open, and fair justice system. Whether they did the things they did or didn't, which I'm skeptical on Paul Whelan, the reality is they don't get fair trials there. So they're coerced into saying and doing things they don't want to do. And those of you that are out there saying, well, she broke the laws of their country. Well, the laws of the country, if incompatible with the values of America, are generally considered illegitimate to America. And we try to get those people back because they are tried under a system that is not fair. Now, when you talk about things like the SOFA agreement, where the status of forces agreement, where U.S. soldiers are tried in places like Japan or Germany because they break the law, those soldiers will stay in prison because they have what is perceived to be a free, fair, and open justice system relative to what the United States' standards are. So that is my argument for why I'm fine with Brittney Griner coming back. It is sad that Paul Whelan is still there, and I hope we find a way to get him back as well, because he's there under the similar circumstances of just Russians using them as geopolitical pawns. However, I do have a big concern in that this opens the door. It's a slippery slope that when a celebrity or an athlete or something is captured, and I'm not saying Brittney Griner is the biggest celebrity. Actually, I bet you her celebrity grew based on what happened in Russia. But this opens the door up for American celebrities or athletes overseas to be kidnapped and used as leverage. So what's stopping things like the Taliban or Al-Qaeda in Iraq or ISIS or any of these other organizations from scooping up people that it would be politically damaging if we don't get them back, such as Brittney Griner? What's stopping them from just making that a policy now? And it generally will make Americans more danger, or it's more of a danger to Americans and maybe even Brits or French celebrities overseas, because now we're willing to negotiate, which with terrorist operations, and I believe fully that Russia is a terrorist state. I know that Obama made a trade with Taliban for the Taliban 5 to get, I think it was Bo Bergdahl back, but that's not a celebrity. That was just a soldier, so it wasn't as strong of leverage to try and get someone back. But we'll see where this goes from there. I also have concerns about who we gave up, Viktor Bout. Now, this person was called the Merchant of Death for a reason, and after the Soviet Union collapsed, he acquired a bunch of old cargo planes and began trafficking arms. Now, he had two businesses. He had a legitimate business and then he had an illegitimate business. Now, the legitimate business was used as an arms trafficker for countries like the United States, the UN, the UK, in which they were using kind of that shadowy ops type of, the US wasn't going to give directly to our allies in countries because they weren't necessarily allies in treaty, but we wanted to support them. So we would use companies like Viktor Bout all the way up to 2003. However, he had a backside where he was a darker arms dealer situation, and that's where the book Merchant of Death, which is where he got the nickname for, came from, when there was Douglas Farrar and Stephen Braun wrote a book called Merchant of Death about him, and actually it inspired Nicolas Cage's character in Lord of War. So if you guys have seen that movie, it's actually quite a fascinating movie. Now, he had, like I said, he had legitimate businesses, dealings with Iraq, and when we were over there trying to rapidly equip the Iraqi army and Iraqi police to help bolster their capabilities, but he also violated UN arms embargoes in Angola, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the Congo. So he was playing both sides, as most of these arms dealers do. In fact, he was playing both sides when it came to Russia, Afghanistan as well in the 90s. So kind of a nefarious person here, because he is known for having supplied weaponry to warlords in Africa that were trying to kill or commit genocide against other tribes. Incidentally, he was caught by the DEA when trying to discuss possible arms shipments in Thailand, and was extradited to the U.S. He then was charged and convicted on terrorism charges and sentenced to 25 years in prison. This was in 2012. So not a good person. So I get it. It's great to get an American back, but I think we gave up a far worse person, and the world is going to be worse for it, unfortunately. This trade, unfortunately, is going to make it more unsafe for Americans overseas, potentially, especially if you have a following or a celebrity, but also Viktor Bout being back out in the world is not a great thing to have either. Now, it's not to say that we can't scoop him up again, find a way to charge him, and I don't know, have this whole merry-go-round happen again, but I doubt he's going to be foolish enough to get back into this. He might just be an advisor on how Russia can avoid weapons, sanctions, and all of this stuff, because he kind of developed a masterclass on that. So that's kind of the two big things that are going on. There's a bunch coming out in China, but I'll talk about that in another video. So yeah, also same with Ukraine, some new stuff coming out in Ukraine, but I just wanted to kind of hammer down on the Peru thing and Brittney Griner. So have a good day, everyone.